Welcome back to Down Once More podcast with Matt and Raley. Thanks for tuning in. This is a very special week for Matt, especially because he's been waiting for this episode. I know, chomping at the bit, trying to get to this one. But thanks for tuning in case you're watching us on YouTube or listening to many different ways you can listen to podcasts. We're happy that you joined. This week, we are going to be talking about Dear Evan Hansen, which if you haven't seen it or don't know where to get it, I believe it's on Netflix. Is that where I found it?
HBO Max.
HBO Max. That's the one. Yeah. HBO Max. You can watch it. And this is an actual show that you can go see, but we're going to be talking about the movie version, which is on HBO Max and not the actual Broadway show. Matt, what's up?
No, nothing much. Just living the dream. I recently went back and I think it was beginning of January, I talked about the Wicked movie that they're doing. Yes. And so one of the guys who's cast as Bach in the play, who is a munchkin, if you're not familiar with it, people said he was Spongebob. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? He was SpongeBob, like the cartoon? No, there's a SpongeBob, the SquarePants musical, and he was SpongeBob in that. And I'm like, that. I was never a SpongeBob guy. I wasn't allowed to watch SpongeBob.
Same.
So it didn't mean anything to me. This guy's name's Ethan Slater. On YouTube, there's some videos of the Broadway performances, and he is actually fantastic and really good. And one of the songs I really liked. The whole musical. Like not for me, yeah. But this, I forget what the one song was. But if you Google Ethan Slater, SpongeBob the musical, it was actually really good. So,
but does it sound like SpongeBob? Does it like I'm ready?
He did at some points when he was talking, but when he was singing, he was doing an actual singing voice, not like trying to sound as much like SpongeBob as he sang. He'll be a good munchkin,
I find that voice very annoying. Oh, okay. I could see it as a munchkin voice, though. I can see that.
Yeah.
It works.
So I know. Which they're in the middle of filming that now. There's been leaked set photos from the Wicked movie. Ooh. So, yeah.
Wicked's coming here, I think, in March. I'm so excited. Wait, are we in March yet? No, this is February.
No, February. I'm seeing Book of Mormon in March, and I am fucking pumped for that.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. It is. I love that soundtrack. It is funny as hell.
It's really good.
And so my brother from Chicago's coming down, and we're going to go see it. I already have tickets. We're in like the 8th row.
That's interesting.
So, yeah.
That you and your brother coming from the background you come from.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it'll be interesting.
It has a good message.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I'm excited for that. But
awesome.
How have you been?
Pretty good. I don't have anything to say about how cold it is outside. Everybody keeps telling me how freezing it is, and I have nothing to say about it because every time I open my mouth about how cold it is, everyone gets mad at me because I live in Miami, and if I complain about it being 65 degrees here, I get shut down harshly. And so I shall not say anything about how beautiful and springtimey it is here because it's cold for me when it's 60 degrees, but I'm not supposed to complain about it. So I'm going to shut up and just go to the beach, you know?
Well, that's the thing. It's cold for Miami. So like, if you live in those other places where it's cold, you're more accustomed to the cold. So you don't think that's cold. But if you live somewhere that it's always hot, you're accustomed to it always being hot.
My fucking fault. You live in a fucking winter blizzard zone.
That's right.
And I don't, and I'm smart enough to move out of that. It's not my fault. But people get really mad at me. So I'm going to stop talking about it because I've gotten a lot of harsh feedback from people when I do that. So I'm going to shut up. I'm just going to say it is a balmy 68 degrees today. And I was chilly.
I mean, it was 51 this weekend here, so
it's not
pretty
that bad,
nice.
Right? I mean, it's
heat
cold for
wave
me. It's
for
freezing
us.
to me, but like,
Yeah, it was
February
like a
up
high
there
of
is.
10 earlier in the week, so I'll take
I'm sure people
51.
don't want to hear us talk about the weather. It's not the one. It's not what people came for, right?
That's
Not
right.
exactly the most exciting topic to talk about.
That's right. We're going to get into this depressing musical now. So,
Oh,
first
man.
off, I'll say Dear Evan Hansen, if you're not familiar with it, just want to give a heads up, kind of a little bit of a trigger warning. It does deal with suicide. So, if you are struggling, there is suicide prevention and crisis hotline is 988. Call that. Reach out to someone, reach out to friends, family. I know I'm gonna be up. This is gonna be kind of probably a little bit more of a downer episode, but I'll be upfront. Part of the reason Dear Evan Hansen means a lot to me is because I've struggled with depression and anxiety. It's fairly mellow. I'm lucky in that regard that therapy helps more. I'm not on any meds or anything currently, but I have people in my life who I have people in my life who have taken their life, and I have people in my life who have reached out and gotten help. And like, yes, that doesn't help 100% of the time, but the people in your life care about you and would much rather have you reach out to them and interact and provide a listening ear if they can than for you to be gone. So if you're struggling, reach out. Hell, even DM us on Instagram. If you just need someone to listen, we're there. May not know you, may not know your
Doesn't
story, but
matter.
if you just need someone to listen or not feel so alone, know you're never alone. There's always people there. We got you. And on that
Yes.
note,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. What Matt said. Look, it's very, very, very much more common than anybody who actually struggles with it realizes. So don't feel alone. Don't feel like you're by yourself and that you're the only person that feels that way, because I too have struggled with depression and anxiety just like Matt. And so it is way more common than anyone who actually struggles with it really believes, especially in that moment. So
yeah,
it's nothing to joke about. It's nothing to be like flippant about. It is a real thing. So we may say some things here that are funny, and we may be like, joking around about the actual depressing nature of the musical itself. But the truth is, it is a serious thing. So if you need help, reach out.
yeah. And I think things are getting better. It's starting to get mental health is talked about more. It's still, people still have somewhat of a stigma around it or perceived stigma, but I think that has been going away more. And there's things like this show that can bring it to light and make it more common knowledge, and you see what's going on behind the surface. That help. So there's our PSA heads up before we get into this movie. And now, again, before we get into this movie, Rayleigh, what was your experience with this musical? Did you have a knowledge of it or experience with it before you watched the movie?
So I actually had never heard of Dear Evan Hansen until you told me about it. And this, you probably told me about it forever ago. I think you asked me like among one of our first conversations when we started talking, when we both realized we liked musicals. We were like, "Oh, have you checked out Dear Evan Hansen?" And I was like, "What is? Are you asking me a real sentence? That doesn't even make any sense. Have you watched Dear Evan Hansen? That's not a sentence that makes sense." But then I had to look it up, and so I watched the trailer after you told me about it, and I got the general gist of it, but I never actually saw it until we decided to do this episode. And you've been bugging me to see it for over a year now. And so I finally watched it for this episode. And so this was my first time actually seeing it, right? Holy shit. Knowing only a little bit about what it was about, I knew that there was going to be I knew I was going to have problems with it, like watching it, emotional problems watching it. But I had no idea to the depth at which I would struggle to watch this. And not because, and I'm not saying that because I was like, oh, like that's, it's too triggering for me. That wasn't the problem for me. It was just like insanely hard for me to watch him being so, the whole thing, the whole situation, all of it from beginning to end was uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Like, made me either cringe or like so uncomfortable that I'm sweating and like fidgeting and like trying to like just like fix this. Oh my God, what are you doing? Like, stop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, you did not just say that. No, my God, what are you doing? Like the whole time, just like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a full 2+ hours of uncomfortability for me.
So long. It is. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
It's really long.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really uncomfortable. And look, I don't watch things that make me uncomfortable unless I'm in a very specific mood. I have to be in a mood that's like, I'm ready to be like upset. And so I may not go back to this one anytime in the near future because it was so heavy for me and so uncomfortable that it may take me some time to process what I went through for those 2+ hours. And then I will come back to it when I'm good and ready. But just go into it knowing it's not going to be an easy breezy flip through it like a strolling through the tulip field of happiness and love songs. Okay, this one is going to be, it's going to hurt. Yeah. And it's going to hurt in a lot of ways. Emotionally, it's going to raise your blood pressure. It's going to make your heart rate increase. It's going to make you cringe. It's going to make you sweat. It's all of the above. That's my take.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt? Tell us what you think.
So I first heard this and I've been listening to the Broadway soundtrack for years, the cast recording. When it first came out, I was listening to it. And at that time, with the job I was in at the time and some other stuff, my anxiety and everything and other stuff going on in my life was ramped up more too. And so this musical really spoke to me more than specifically Waving Through a Window and You Will Be Found. Those are the two songs that make it on almost every single one of my playlists and are constant or go-tos for me. And one, that's what my necklace actually that I wear. It says two things. You're not gonna be able to see. It says Fear or Love from Tick Tick Boom. And then it says You Will Be Found. Because those are just two sayings, reminders from Tick Tick Boom. It was, are you letting yourself be led by fear or love? And then just the message from You Will Be Found about when you're feeling alone or the darkness surrounding you, that you're not alone. Everyone goes through these things, part of a bigger thing. So those are two things that kind of spoke to me. So that's why I got that. And so I've had a connection to this and known all the songs for years. I was excited when the movie was announced. I had mixed feelings when they said Ben Platt was gonna, because he was the one who originated it on Broadway, who played Evan. When they said he was gonna play Evan in this, because he's like 34 or something now. But so I have mixed feelings on that. He captures that anxiety and uncomfortableness so well. He's been open, part of it because of his own anxiety and stuff like that he's dealt with. He's able to embody that. But like you said, holy shit, there's so many parts of this where you're like, oh, I just feel it. And you're just on edge. And it's like, man, it captures anxiety really well. But where I had such connection to the musical soundtrack, I was very disappointed with the movie adaptation. There are songs that are taken out. There are certain things that when we get further into, I'll discuss more, but there are certain things that just I didn't care for as much, and the movie didn't hit me as hard as just the soundtrack did. So that was my interaction. I saw it in the theaters, which I usually don't go to movies like that in the theater, but I really wanted to see it. I usually save the theater for the big blockbusters of special effects that's added by the theater, but I was impatient. I had tickets to go see this on the touring show, and then it was the weekend after everything was shut down because of COVID. So it got canceled. So it was like March 20th, 2020. Had tickets and everything, and then the world shut down. And so I haven't gotten to see it live. So I'll discuss some as we go, some of the differences in the cut songs. Because have you listened to the set? You just watched it, so probably not. So
I literally had never heard. I think I might have heard half of the first song they play in the movie, like just in passing, but I had never actually listened to the soundtrack. So the music and the movie were a brand new experience for me altogether. Yeah. So I have no previous knowledge or expectations when it comes to the music in the movie. I will say this. As someone who really likes musicals, the music, I think, is very good. The lyrics are very good. They're very poignant, right? They're very like, it just touches you, like it gets you. And part of that is, I think, because of the cast in the movie for me. Like, having not heard the Broadway musical version, the way it was cast, I felt was pretty decent. But it does feel very like it has some High School Musical vibes for me. It has some like kind of how do I say this? It's just not super complex, you know. Like the music is very like simple and very it just has like kind of a general like similar mode throughout. So none of the music was like, holy shit, where'd that come from? You know, it was kind of all like along the same sort of vibes and same sort of tone and same sort of like melodies were similar and ranges were similar and music was similar throughout. So there wasn't anything in there that was like, oh my God, this is my most favorite song ever now. It was more just like the lyrics were more like, oh, like, holy shit, I understand what you're talking about. And it's like emotional and I'm reacting to it.
Yeah.
So rather than hearing like, you know, first time you hear like Phantom of the Opera, the first time you hear the dun, 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 you know, you're like, holy fuck, that is different.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything. I didn't have a reaction like that. It was more just like listening to the words and the messages that actually were. Well, and part of that, I think, again, is the casting. I think that the actor himself delivers the music. When he's singing, when Evan Hansen is singing, his acting is so good that he could be singing like a poem and you'd cry because he's that good.
Yeah. And you may recognize him. I think the thing that he's most well known for is he was Benji in the Pitch Perfect movies. So the one that liked magic. So that's where I was first introduced to Ben Platt.
So cute.
And going back to Book of Mormon, right before he took over Dear Evan Hansen, and that play started, he had been doing a run of Book of Mormon. That's what he was doing previously. So, yeah,
he has an amazing voice.
Yeah, and I'll just hit on. I think, like you said, with the set and how it feels, I don't think this should have been a theatrically released movie. I think it should have been either on a streaming one or could have benefited from just being a filmed of the Broadway production. In my opinion, it's like it bombed at the box office because like it's not like The Greatest Showman, because these Pasek and Paul who wrote this, they wrote The Greatest Showman too, and so like that's a big spectacle, pretty upbeat for the most part. Like it's got some down parts, but it's cheery, got some big numbers that you take away with you. This isn't that. Like you said, it's more the lyrics and the stuff and that message. That's the point. So this was never going to perform well in theaters. Like it's not one that you go to multiple viewings. I think some of those big budget ones, you like, I had so much fun at this one showing, I'm going to go see it again with other people or see it another time. This you leave on, I mean, slightly more up, but not really.
But not really. I mean, it does not give you a happy ending at the end.
No.
There is not really a, like, everything's okay. Everybody's happy. It's fine. You don't feel like that in the end. And so, if you haven't... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just... I have problems with the end that I'll discuss towards the end. I'll wait.
Yeah, me too.
That, but
I think the... Okay, so the general story, if you haven't seen it, is that Evan Hansen is a high school kid who is severely depressed and has severe anxiety. Severe anxiety. He's on multiple medications, and his anxiety is crippling. It really affects him day to day, minute to minute, second to second. His invasive, intrusive thoughts are running his life. So he's a very uncomfortable high school kid, and I think that's very relatable. And he's just, unpopular, doesn't have any friends, really sad. His therapist has given him an assignment to write himself notes every day to say, "Dear Evan Hansen, I'm going to have a good day. You're going to have a good day. Here's why you're going to have a good day." It's going to be a pep talk, right? Everything's like a letter to himself. And then one of these letters that he writes to himself, he prints out at the library, and another kid from the school who's having a lot of problems with depression and rage and anxiety and all kinds of, mental disorders that no one can really diagnose, finds the letter, makes fun of him, thinks Evan Hansen is making fun of him. So there's this miscommunication. Evan Hansen is worried and freaked out, thinking that this kid's gonna like put him on blast and like make fun of him on social media, because that's what he really was like the most concerned about. Little does he know, the kid who found the letter actually does commit suicide. And the last thing that his parents find on him is this letter that he stole from Evan Hansen that says, "Dear Evan Hansen." And the letter is a note that Evan Hansen wrote to himself saying, what would happen if I just disappeared? Like, I wish somebody would notice me. I wish things were different. Nothing's going my way. Nobody would even notice if I was gone tomorrow. And the parents think that the note is a suicide note on their child, not from Evan Hansen. And so Evan Hansen basically like pretends for their benefit that this kid who committed suicide was his friend, and that they had this special bond, and right, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and suddenly he's gone viral talking about how much fun he and his friend had and how much he misses him and how great he was and all this stuff. And it just gets out of control. And so he's like a big fat liar, right? He did like one of the worst possible things you can do, which is to like become insta famous from someone else's death.
Yeah.
And that wasn't his intention, right? He had good intentions. He didn't want to hurt the family. He actually intended to tell the truth in the beginning. He didn't want to hurt the family, but the family was so sad that this boy had killed himself that they wanted something to hold on to. So they were thirsty for him to just say like, "Oh, we had a friend, somebody who was there for him, somebody who understood him," because we didn't understand him. Yada, yada, yada. 2.5 hours later, it all comes crashing down, right? So he has to tell the truth. It's really, really, really hard to watch someone build up such a huge amount of pressure and lies based all on like the moral question of whether or not it's right to tell the truth in this case. And that's why I kept going back and forth in my head. It's like, yes, he should always tell the truth, right? You should tell the truth. Being honest is good. But in this case, is honesty really the right thing? Because he helped so many people by telling this lie. Is the good thing to do to tell the truth in the end and crush everyone's hopes and dreams and say like, I actually am the worst human being ever, and I did the worst possible thing, and I took advantage of your grief and made you think something that was not true? Or does the lie continue on, benefiting hundreds of thousands of kids around the world who have heard you speak and been inspired by you, and the family who's been grieving and who's been letting go of him and has been happy because of it and been like at peace? That's the moral question, right? Is it okay to do that if it's for the right reasons, or should you always just tell the truth?
Well, and that's one of the things too, that because I've heard some other podcasts I listen to, whatever, that do movie reviews, and they're talking about this, basically how they're like, Evan, he's just the lie. I can't believe that. It's so horrible. I view it kind of differently. Yes, lie is horrible, but you're looking at it, this is someone that we have set up, has severe crippling anxiety, and he is in that moment asking the questions. He tries to, when the parents show him the letter, like, you were friends and yada yada, and he's trying to tell him, no, we weren't that. not to me, no. And his just like anxiety, he doesn't know how to do it, and you can just feel that uncomfortableness. And then they invite him to dinner where he had intended to tell him the truth, and then he just sees this family, especially the mom, that's just trying to find a positive and latch onto something good for their troubled son who's dead, who the sister's bitter about it and everything. And the stepdad is kind of, he's more just like not showing emotion. It's kind of what it seems like. He's not processing the grief and everything yet. And the mom's just trying to find something positive about the son. And he just starts trying to diffuse the situation and tells this story to help them. And then to me, where it really turns and where he starts being more problematic, not that it's justifiable what he's doing, but it's easier to justify in your head and why he's doing that with his intentions are pure towards the beginning. Because he's trying to help this grieving family. And then later on, as it goes, when he starts telling the lies and twisting it for his own thing, he stops caring as much about the foundation that they've created, the Connor Project, to remember him and let people know that they're not alone, where he's just more involved with his relationship with the dead guy's sister that he had a crush on, and that and his own thing, and what's gonna really, it seems, what's gonna benefit him most. That's when I kind of turn on him. And the biggest change, well, there's a couple, but one of the biggest changes in the movie versus the Broadway play, in the Broadway play, only the Murphys and his mom knows that he lied. He doesn't come clean and tell everyone. They didn't want him to. And so that's what happens in the play, which people were pissed about because they're like, he then doesn't have any accountability for it. So that's
There's
part
no
of why they changed it in the movie.
His actions, yeah.
Right.
Which I understood that they were going to have to do, but that's a huge difference. That's like,
yeah,
because the whole end of the movie is that everybody turns on him. Everybody hates him after that. Like,
and that's where my biggest problem with this
people.
movie lies, with that change. So this is someone that we have established has severe anxiety and depression and all sorts of other stuff, right? And he is at this point where he has had some growth. He confesses what he did to Connor's family. And then everyone turns on him and hates him. And he decides to go down a path on getting to know Connor, like reaching out to people who are friends with him on Facebook, trying to connect with Connor after the fact to make himself feel better. And in that moment, it seems to almost cure his anxiety, depression, everything he's dealing with. And that was my biggest problem with this. And that I feel like is, saying it's dangerous is exaggerating, but I feel like it sends the wrong message. I feel like, yes, there are people that if you can find purpose on something, that it can help with your anxiety and depression. But for him, this would be, with that character as you have established, this would be the lowest point and the hardest shit that he's had to deal with, is everyone turning on him. The girl that he loves won't talk to him anymore. And then
he's disappointed. Literally, everyone
after that point,
he doesn't display anything of him.
Yeah, he doesn't display any kind of anxiety or anything after that point, and that's my biggest problem with the movie.
Yeah.
So
and it was like a wrap up, you know. And I also felt like that's a cop out. Like, you trying to ask people for Connor's memories after you got busted for this. Like, why wouldn't you reach out before that and ask people for memories of Connor? Especially, let's even say it's not even for like the best reasons, but like if you were trying to keep up a lie and like you don't want people to find out, at the very least you would be asking people who might have known him. But hopefully, for the right reasons, you would actually be like, wow, I really didn't know this guy, and I would like to know some things about him. We started this project. I want to help his family. I want to help people who are around the world who are like him. Let me get to know him a little bit more. You didn't do that until after you got busted for this lie. Then you start asking people, and by the way, let's also assume that like the entire world has already heard about your story, right? Because we make the assumption that at the very least hundreds of thousands of people have shared these videos of him. So his story is not unfamiliar, right? It's a lot of people know this. And now he's reaching out to people and just being like, hey, do you know anything about Connor? And they're just like, here you go, have some things about Connor. I would think that people would be like, bro, I know who you are.
Right.
Fuck you. I know what you did. Right. And I'm not sending you memories about my friend that you pretended to be friends with so that you could go viral. No, you cannot have memories of my actual friend. Go fuck off. Like, people were like, okay, I didn't know. Yeah. Why didn't he do that before? Why didn't he ask for actual memories before? Why didn't his family go and ask for actual memories before? It seemed like it was pretty easy for him to track down people who actually knew Connor. Like, why didn't they go ask anybody else?
Well, and that was one more thing.
No, go ahead.
Battery died? No. One more thing about the end, and then I'm going to jump back towards the beginning, because I kind of jumped towards the end, is that, so the movie almost ends, is he finds someone who is in recovery with Connor, which Connor is played by Colton Ryan, who was the understudy for Ben Platt as Evan Hansen in the original Broadway run.
I'm listening to you. I'm just going to plug my light in.
It's all good. And so what happens is he finds someone who is in recovery with Connor, and he shares with him a video of Connor playing a song on guitar that he had wrote, which that song was new for the movie. That wasn't in the original Broadway play.
Interesting.
A little closer. And so then what Evan does when he gets this video, he makes copies on USB drives and he sends it to Connor's parents, his family, the Murphys, and then these other people that helped with the Connor project, which I have another problem with. That is a very personal thing. You should send it to his parents first and ask them if you can share that, was my thought with that. But
not to mention, I don't think that anybody's supposed to be recording anybody doing anything in recovery.
In recovery?
I'm pretty sure that shit is supposed to be pretty private.
Right.
So I would have a problem if I was in recovery. I'd have a problem with somebody like taking a secret video of me singing my song, my very personal song that I wouldn't even play for my family. Remind you, I refused to play for anyone I actually knew. I did it in recovery because it's supposed to be anonymous.
Right.
And then it gets sent out to God knows whoever just to clear your conscience. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I had a lot of problems with that. The wrap up of the movie felt very, felt very hastened. Like they were like, oh, we don't know how to make this end, so let's just like put some stuff together and like make this happen, and then this happen, and then this happen. Oh, and then I guess everything's kind of okay. I mean, so like he gets the girl in the end, so it's not like a happy ending. Like everybody's fine, but he's kind of okay in the end after what he did. It bothers me that in the end he's like, dear Evan Hansen, today's going to be a good day. No, why? Because you're you. And I'm like, dude, I think that you should still feel pretty fucking terrible about what happened. And not that I think you should be living in your guilt, but that you should be aware of the fact that you hurt a lot of people.
Yeah. And
you did a dangerous thing. You made a lot of people who are struggling with a real disorder or real problems, made it seem like it didn't really matter if they were known or not. When you were the one that said, everybody, you'll be found. Like there's always going to be somebody there to help you. Like me, I was there to help Connor, except you weren't. So then you fucked up that whole line of thinking and made everybody believe something that wasn't true. So in the end, I don't think you should feel like, I don't think you should have crippling guilt. I think you should be processing the fact that there's something very wrong when you do that you did that, and that you need to figure that out. Not just like, it's okay, it's a good day, I'll be all right, everything's fine. Yeah. No, it's not fine.
Yeah.
And you still have a lot of things to deal with too, by the way. You still have anxiety, you still have depression, you still have things that you need to work through, things that made you do these things, right? The fact that your dad is not around, that really hurts you. Your mom's been working her all through your life, so she hasn't really been around there's a lot of things that are underlying that he doesn't really process or deal with. And the movie made it seem like we could just sort of like button it up,
Yeah.
put a little bow on it, and like it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? And that felt like
that's what I
built up all this movie and then it just like, whoop, it's done. It's done.
Yeah, I wish they would have had more about, like I said, that was my biggest thing. I guess I think what they're going for is that if you're struggling, there is hope. You can't get over it. You can learn from your mistakes, stuff like that. Like you're not doomed to be wallowing all the time. There's things that can help.
For sure.
But
processing
I don't like the way they got
is
there.
Important.
Yeah, I don't like the way they got there. Let's jump back a little bit. I'm going to hit some of the differences between the Broadway and the movie, which were some of my biggest things I didn't like. In the Broadway play, it does not open up with waving through a window. It opens up with a song called Anybody Have a Map? That is Connor's mom and Evan's mom are the ones that sing that. And it gives more kind of backstory, kind of fleshes out those characters more and everything they're going through and their feelings. And I get why you want to open with waving through a window. Like, I understand that's like one of the key ones. You want to start on Evan and that anxiety and his feelings and what he's going through and everything. But I think Anybody Have a Map? That song really gives more insight and view on the Murphy family, especially, and Connor's mom. And she's going through a struggling because it has Connor being difficult and she's trying to get him at the morning before school and everything. Or saying he's probably high. She doesn't want him going to school high. Everything, some back and forth with Zoe too, and everything on there. And it's just these moms asking, anybody have a map? Know how the hell to get through this? Everything that they're struggling with. Where you've got Evan's mom that's working extra shifts, trying to make ends meet as a single mom and everything like that. And so I think I missed that character development. I understand why you don't want to open with that, probably. And I mean, Julianne, they had two very high profile actresses in those roles with Julianne Moore and Amy Adams, which were very small roles really in this. And so, I mean, they were both, I was surprised at how good of a singer Julianne Moore did on her song. I knew Amy Adams, she's sang and some other things.
Enchanted.
But yeah. So that was the big difference, the first one. Another one, they wrote two new songs for the movie. The one at the end, A Little Closer, that problems with that scene, I didn't love that one. The other new one for this is the Anonymous ones that Alana sings, which I really do like that song. In the play, that song is instead, so the play is a little more lighthearted than the movie. The movie, they go more serious tone. I mean, the play's still serious, but it balances it a little more. It has a little more lighthearted stuff in there. In the play, Evan visualizes Connor and talks to him and sings to him some kind of like that Sincerely Me song at the beginning when they're doing the emails back and forth. And so there is a song called Disappear.
The fuck is happening? My light does not want to work.
If you're listening, Raley's light keeps going in and out.
It keeps going out, and it's like we're trying to have a conversation here. Like, what the hell? But it's like a drastic change. It's not just like when I go like this. It's like I'm like completely dark over here,
like Two-Face.
Yes.
And in the Broadway one, it's Disappear. It's Connor and Evan singing about no one deserves to be forgotten, no one deserves to fade away, and that no one deserves to disappear. And so that's why Evan comes up with kind of the Connor Project idea to keep Connor's memory alive so he don't disappear. Which I like that song, but I like the overall theme and message of the Anonymous ones better, where it's kind of a long talking about, hey, there's these people that they may look like they have everything going right, their lives together, but they still be struggling too, not the ones that speak up. So I did really like that addition and that change.
That was probably one of my favorite songs, I think, in the movie.
Yeah. And then the other song that they cut that I wasn't happy with is called Good For You. And it takes place after the very awkward dinner between Evan's mom and the Murphys.
Oof,
and she
so
gets
awkward.
blindsided by that. Raley's light went out again.
Jesus.
And so in the movie, they just have a discussion, but in the play, it is a whole song with almost everyone singing, and Evan's mom just kind of has some anger. So you got what you always wanted, you got your dreams come true, good for you. And Evan kind of more back and forth with her with that whole argument they have on the street, and it's in a song, and it is a very powerful song, and it is very raw, and it's got Mr. Murphy, Connor's dad, going through some more stuff too, and processing his grief and anger and everything. And I really like that song. I miss that in the movie. The other one that's cut, I was fine with because not one of my favorite. It is when Connor's dad is having a conversation with Evan about the baseball glove, and he said Connor never used this, and went, "Oh, there's a song it's called To Break in a Glove." And it's a decent song, but I was fine with that one being cut. So those are the 3 songs that were cut from the original Broadway.
Interesting.
So
I'll have to go back and listen to the actual album now and listen to the music from the Broadway show. I'm interested in it, and I also want to hear it again. Having only listened to it one time, I think I probably missed quite a bit of like some of the substance, you know?
Yeah. The music for Good For You is played right after Waving Through a Window when they're at like the pep rally or whatever, and the pep band's playing a song. That music is the music for the song Good For You that was cut, that they're playing. So they kind of threw it in there. But what other notes?
I thought I think the song that like really affected me the most, and there's quite a few emotional numbers in this movie. I think they're all pretty emotional in some way or another. There's hardly any, like, I think except for like Sincerely Me, there's hardly any like really upbeat, like happy kind of sounding songs. So they're quite emotional one after another, back to back. But the one that really got me is it was actually Julianne Moore's song, because when she's singing, I mean, I'm a mom, right? So talking about Evan Hansen's dad leaving when he was only 7 years old, and it like the pure like 7-year-old being excited about a truck being in the front yard and not understanding that truck is taking away his dad forever, and his dad is leaving, and that he's just so excited that there's a truck, right? And he's like, oh, it's a truck. And he's only 7 years old, so that's like natural and normal. And then like later in the night asks her, is that there going to be a truck? Oh my God, I'm going to tear up. Is there going to be a truck tomorrow in our driveway that's going to take mommy away? Like, holy shit. Like when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. Because all I can think about is my kid, you know, my son. Like, so it was written really well. I don't have to talk about how good of an actress Julianne Moore is. She's fucking phenomenal. And she killed it. So she delivered it in that song, above all the other songs about like depression and anxiety, which were also very emotional for me. That's the one that really, I actually was like, oh, the waterworks were in full force for that one. Which I think is interesting, because the message of that is probably it's on the back burner compared to the rest of the messages in the movie. It's a very, very it's not in the like the forefront messaging in the movie, but it was one that was like, oh fuck.
Well, and that's what I felt like. To me, that song, it still had impact because of what it was, but we don't get, like with Anybody Have a Map and Good For You being cut, so much of that character's, like Evan's mom's motivation and her emotion, we don't get in the movie. So she's not as, like, to me, that song doesn't hit as much without those other ones building up that character along the way. I did have in my notes for that one, I said $50 as Raley cried during this song.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Did you really put that?
Yeah.
I'm so fucking predictable. Nope,
You're not going to be able to read it, but it is there.
Oh, $50. It does say it. $50 says Raley. Oh my God. Yep. Yeah, when you're like, real surprising that she's a mom of a 4-year-old and she's gonna cry at this song.
Yeah, I knew you were going to.
So predictable.
Yeah. So
by the way, this light, I'm super annoyed that this light keeps going out because this is fucking brand new. I never used it before. This one over here is fine. This one's plugged in and it's going out. Why does this only happen to me? I just want to say that. Now I'm done.
You do have the worst luck with technology when we try to record.
I swear to God. Swear to the light gods.
I have mine just got plugged these fucking in lights. Constantly. Yeah.
They are brand new. Fuck you. Well, you're fine. But fuck you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. We mentioned Sincerely Me. Sincerely Me, like I said, is pretty much the only upbeat song in this. And it's a fun song. It's when
it's fun.
Evan enlists his family friend, Jared.
Because
at the beginning, he's talking to this kid and he says, "Oh, we're friends." The kid's just like, "We're family friends."
We're family friends.
Evan, it's not the same thing.
I put in my notes.
So cruel.
This is like my second motherfucking light. This is my second note. The first note is the intro song is super long. Second note is his quote family friend is a real asshole.
Yeah.
That was my second note watching the movie. Real asshole.
Yeah.
But yes, continue.
And so in Sincerely Me, he has this friend help him fake emails between Evan and Connor to show the Murphys to prove that they were friends. Because he wants to help them. And so they're going through, they're typing out the emails, and we get Connor singing, picturing as if Connor and Evan were doing these things. And it has some funny lines, and the choreography is fantastic in it. And it's the most fun song in the movie. The only fun song in the movie, arguably. But
yeah, I mean, look, this Connor kid had way more going on than I expected. Like when you get to know his family, then you actually understand, because you don't really get to see who Connor is before Connor's gone.
Yep.
All you see it's like 2 scenes, I think, maybe 3, where Connor's there, and all he does is yell one time. He says something mean to Evan. He's like, "Oh, that's super sad." He's like, "What happened to your arm?" It's like, "Oh, it broke it falling out of a tree." That's the saddest thing I ever heard. Like that conversation, and then the thing with the printer with the note, where he's like, "Did you do this to make me freak out because you think I'm psycho?" There's three times that we've seen Connor, and they've all been super brief, right? So you don't really get to know who Connor is until you actually talk to the Murphys, his family, and then you hear some of the stuff that he did to his sister, to his mom, and I know, you already knew he was struggling with things, but holy shit, he was struggling, really struggling with some stuff, and he wasn't a nice guy. In addition to struggling, he was also not a nice person and was dealing with some serious rage. So it's funny to see that juxtaposition of him just being super funny and bouncy and talking about these happy things with Evan, "It's okay, buddy, we're gonna get through this, I'm turning my life around, a little reinvention," and comparing that to who he really, it's just so funny. They just did a great job.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Speaking of Evan's cast, we didn't talk about that at all yet, which in our logo, if you notice, I have the cast that says Connor on it in our logo, but that's in the song Words Fail. So, when it opens up, Evan has a broken arm. He's got a cast on his arm. He says he fell out of a tree. That's all we get told. Fell out of a tree. So he says he was climbing a tree and he fell. And so in the song Words Fail, which is one of my favorites because Ben Platt absolutely crushes that song. He's so good. That's, like I said, I feel like he looks off. There's something about him, I don't know if it's his wig or something with the makeup they have on him to try to make him look younger, but he just kind of looks off in this to me. But I can deal with that for the vocal performance. Because
I put in my notes that he has a lot of makeup on. A lot.
Yeah.
Like, it's really obvious, especially when the camera's behind his computer and he's typing.
So
and all you can see is his eyes. You could just see, like, layers of makeup. And it's just like, dude, no. You know you're in 4K right now. You can't do that.
Right. Yeah.
This is not a stage. We can see you.
Yeah. And so that song, Words Fails, when he confesses to the Murphys that he made it all up. And that's after Alana is the one who sings Anonymous Ones, and she's working on the Connor project, which is to keep Connor's memory alive. They're going to buy this orchard that had meaning to Connor and his family. And she's starting to question Evan's timeline and if they were even friends. She's catching on to things, thinking it may be made up. She's like, tell me I didn't tell all these people a lie. And so Evan shares the suicide note with her, which I'm not sure why he doesn't just show it to her. He emails it to her, which is stupid. Yeah. Just like fucking show it on your phone. And he tells her she can't tell anyone else, but she wants to hit the fundraising goals. She posts it online.
Totally.
And then everyone had notifications turned on, apparently.
Super messed up that you post somebody's suicide note on a social media site. Fundraiser or no, good intentions or no, that's a really messed up thing to do. And we didn't even focus on the fact that she just did something super fucked up. Yeah. That's what everybody assumes is his suicide note. And you just put that on blast for hundreds of thousands. No. Oh my God, no.
That's something, like, it's borderline anytime. But if you're going to do that, you need the parents' permission.
At the very least. And then you need to question your own sense of decency if you think that this is a way, the right way to get people to pay money. That's just messed up.
Right. No. And so she posts it, and then apparently everyone in this town has notifications turned on because Zoe's at a party and everyone's phone goes off and they see it. And then it just shows, this is maybe one of the most realistic things in the movie. It shows how people online are such fucking assholes and they see the suicide note and then are commenting on the family, like, oh, his family's rich. Well, why don't they just donate? Rich people asking for money.
Right.
Ooh, maybe we should look at his parents. What was wrong there? And all this shit. And everyone's treating them like shit. Everyone at the grocery store had notifications and looked at their phone.
Apparently, everybody at the grocery store is a dick too.
Yeah, I don't fucking know.
Whoa. And why are we? I didn't know that, like, going out and buying sandwich meat, I was going to get, like, guilt shamed and because of what my son went through. Like, who are you? Like, why do you even know who I am?
Shitty people. You're people who
you're buying celery. Don't judge me. Like, what?
And so
I'm trying to find everyone. I'm listening to you, but I'm just trying to figure out my light situation.
No, you're fine. You do you. And so Evan comes clean to him because they're all the family, the Murphys are all fighting amongst each other of it. Like, the mom's like telling dad, well, we should have done more and blah, blah, blah. And she's taking everything personally to heart because she has all of her own struggles. And Evan comes clean and says, no, he didn't write that.
You.
I did. Yeah. There's nothing you could have done.
It's not your fault. It's my fault.
And he sings this just heartbreaking song. That's Words Fail. And at the end of that song, it shows him, he broke his arm because he climbed up a tree and jumped out, like, on purpose, like trying to take his own life
basically
that way too. And so it shows what he was going through. And that's why the Murphys say that they didn't want him to come clean about it. And the mom says she'd already lost one son because they had become really close to Evan and everything. And so she didn't want him to come clean and thought it would undo a lot of the good. And she didn't want things to get worse for him. So
I thought her character was very endearing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, knowing now what you told me about the opening with the, does anybody have a map?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would help make her even more endearing.
Yeah.
Because in the movie, that family feels a little cold, right? They feel a little bit like, you're rich and kind of detached. And the reason Connor had so many problems because you didn't care. But that's not really the case for the mom, at least.
Right.
The stepdad, maybe a little. The sister, for sure, they weren't close. But the mom, I think she really tried. And that's not that clear unless you really pay attention to her character. And I feel like that opening scene probably helped set that groundwork.
Yeah.
And she also, they don't really address the fact that like he did it for them. You know, he did a bad thing. It's a bad thing. No excuses. But like he did it because it helped them in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, he should have come clean. He should have just told the truth. But like, I think the mom knows, and that's why she didn't want him to say anything. Like, I get the feeling that like her character was more like, okay, I understand why this happened and why you did what you did, but we don't get that resolution from her, and I kind of feel like they don't address that.
Yeah,
that he did it for her more than anyone, because the mom was really pushing. The stepdad and the sister were like whatever, but the mom was really like, no, you knew my son, tell me memories about him. You're like, please, you were friends with him, you were friends with him. So she really like that was kind of because of her in a way.
Yeah. And we haven't wrap up here pretty quick, but we need to touch briefly on, because we haven't talked about it at all, about Caitlin Dever, who played Zoe, did a fantastic job in this role. I felt like I was not aware that she could sing, and I thought she hits some of these points in the notes, some of the songs, and Requiem is one that she's singing, and the Murphys are all singing after Connor's gone, just kind of coming to grips with it. And she viewed Connor as kind of a bad person because he tormented her and
did a lot of mean things to her.
Tried to break into her room, tried to kill her, like stuff like that. And so she's then trying to justify all these good things she's hearing about him with what she knew. And I feel like she gives such raw performances, but her Jeep has magic brakes, because it shows her she is driving 90 miles per hour down this road with not another car on it and not holding it. And then she sees it's a red light and she hits the brakes. She stops in 10 feet
or less.
So I didn't get those brakes.
Magic.
That's impressive.
I know, right? Well, it's like a Jeep commercial for Jeep lovers. It's like we're all like, yes, that's what Jeeps do. It's not true, but if you own a Jeep or have ever owned a Jeep like me, and you're like, fuck yeah, Jeeps do that. Although I have a problem with hers being bright orange, but whatever. At least you always know it's her. Like when she's driving up, you're like, oh, there's Zoe. Like there she is.
Yep.
There's something else I was going to say, but I can't remember what it was. Anyway, no, I think we hit on everything. I have any notes left?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot more. I said, I really like the lyrics and the message. What?
I wrote, holy sadness, Batman.
Yeah.
That's so much sadness. Oh my God.
It is. It is
really heavy.
It's a very heavy musical. Probably what we talked about West Side Story being a downer. This is arguably more of a downer than West Side Story.
Yeah. For different reasons, but yeah.
Yeah.
There's more killing in West Side Story, but there's more.
It's also more dancey.
It's true. Remember the hippie dip?
Yeah.
Okay. Continue.
So yeah,
I think we're good. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I don't think so. That does it. It's hard to say if I'd recommend this or not. I think I'd recommend listening to the soundtrack more than watching the movie. I borderline feel like. I don't know.
I would recommend watching it if you are how do I say this? If you're someone who is not easily perturbed or triggered, maybe, then this might be a good musical to watch. If you do have some sensitivity, if you or a family member or a close friend has ever dealt with something like this, suicide, severe anxiety, or like attempted suicide, or episodes, anything like that, this might not be the thing for you to watch because it is quite triggering at times.
Yeah.
And I would probably leave this one alone if it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But the music is lovely if you're not watching it, and maybe if you just feel like having some emotional musical moments in your car while you're driving, which is what I do all the time. I get very emotional in my car when I'm driving, just because I'm always on stage in my car. Yeah. So I imagine that, I'm just whatever star, whatever show, because I am the star of the show. And so when I'm driving, that's my stage. So I will do that to myself, and I will make myself very emotional driving a car. So if you're like me and you enjoy a good emotional stage moment, then go for it. But otherwise, maybe tread lightly. I'll say that. Tread lightly. Yeah. Be careful.
Well, that's why I think the soundtrack is a little safer, because the more darker themes and stuff like that, and just the songs, they can get some of the good messages from like You Will Be Found, and you get to see some of that dealing with things, but you're not getting it as bam in your face. That makes sense. So yeah.
Okay. Cool.
We will do, I don't know which movie we'll do next month. I think we'll make it a point to try to be a lighter one. So we probably won't do Les Mis next. So we'll take a break and we'll do a more cheery one. And that'll be posted. Stay tuned for our socials for which one we'll do next after that. But I think that wraps it up for Dear Evan Hansen episode. Years in the making. Thanks for joining us. You stuck around with us for this one. And that does it. Don't forget to go down once more.
Well,
later.
Peace.